This dog has been found abandoned, one of thousands picked up from the streets every year. She's been rescued by the Scottish SPCA. They've called her Lulu.
Okay, this is a wee greyhound bitch that was found abandoned down South Queensferry Way and was tied to a tree, found by a member of the public and handed into the SSPCA. She's got a little bit of conjunctivitis, where a little bit of inflammation with both the membranes round her eyes there, and that could be if she was kept in a kennels where there was a lot of urine, hadn't been cleaned up regularly or draining away. The other thing, just on looking at her, is that she's got a lot of dry dandruff through her coat, and her coat and skin's not particularly good quality, and again that can reflect a poorish diet that a lot of these dogs are kept on if they're not currently being in training for racing, so there may be a problem there. We've also got quite a few skin sores. Got areas of the skin here where there's hair missing and thickening of the skin and a little bit of scabbing, and these are scars, and generally when they're over the joints like this, it's very often a sign that these dogs have been kept again in an environment where there's very little padding or bedding for these dogs.
Do they give the animals pain?
Yes, these are just the same as sort of bed sores in people. These are things that are very unpleasant and uncomfortable and will cause the animal some distress, and they're certainly unnecessary if people are looking after their animals. These should be very obvious to them, and they should be able to take measures to avoid them.
Harry Howarth has found something on the dog which might tell him where she came from. It's a racing tag.
On the right here we can, just to make out the letters HHJ7, and all greyhounds that are born that are destined for racing will have a tattoo number as identification, and that identification number does allow us to trace them back to the country that the dogs were born in, and should allow us to follow them all the way back to the breeder, and hopefully the breeder with adequate records will be able to put us on to who the owner of this dog is, and that's what we're pursuing at the moment. And in this particular dog, this number tells us that she was born in Scotland, this dog, but until we've finished our inquiries we won't know any more than that.
The tattoo means that Lulu was bred for racing. Harry has seen countless cases like this before. With their racing days over and no more money to be made from them, young greyhounds are often abandoned. The average career of a track dog lasts just 18 months.
Abandoning a dog and tying it to a tree is totally irresponsible. That dog could come to all sorts of harm. The dog could hang itself and tighten that. So yes, that's certainly against the welfare laws in this country at the moment.
SSPCA officers have made calls about the identification tag on Lulu's ear. The British Greyhound Racing Board has told them it has no record of Lulu racing on any of the official registered tracks. But her muscles are so well developed, the SSPCA believe she's been raced elsewhere. These dogs are racing at an unregistered track called a flapping track. There are only 5 of the flapping tracks left in Scotland, and they're in a sad state. The SSPCA think Lulu could have been raced at one of these tracks. Retired trainer and greyhound owner Ian Robb knows these flapping tracks well.
20 years that I've been racing the dogs, and I started off at Thornton, Corby Wood. A good dog trainer will really look after his dog. It's a competition between one trainer and another trainer to see who can get their dog to run at a peak fitness.
Ian has happy memories of great wins at the tracks, but his opinion of them has changed.
I think years ago the people were in it for the love of racing the dogs, but nowadays it just seems to be all about money.
We visited 2 of Scotland's flapping tracks to secretly film the conditions there.
If you go to the flapping tracks, there's maybe a few kennels for the dogs to go in, just cages. The dogs are left in there this time of year, they're freezing. No central heating, no nothing, or they're left in the back of a car or in the back of the vans when the temperatures are maybe 2-3 minus.
Now, there's no kennels here at Corby Wood, but where they do keep the dogs is in the back of the cars and the vans, so... All of these vans, all of these cars have got dogs in. It's freezing, freezing cold.
Reservations to 125 right after this race, please. Thank you.
Well, you could certainly see a sort of condensation in these vans, just watching the dogs through the windows, and these dogs, that's, you know, they're in a state of high excitement. There would have to be great concerns that having these dogs kept in cars prior to a race was neither giving them a chance to sort of warm up or to perform at their best.
Cold muscles increase the risk of injury. The better owners do their best to warm the dogs up, but temperatures here tonight are close to freezing.
Yeah, on an average in Scotland at the flapping tracks there's 10 race meetings, and I would say out of the 10 race meetings there would be at least 10 dogs per week badly injured.
It's our first night filming secretly at the Armadale track. Race 12 gets underway. Keep an eye on this white dog. He gets off to a good start. But all of a sudden, he falls right back. After such a promising start, the dog crosses the line last.
Well, we see the dogs all setting off out of the traps and a good clean break, but the big white dog, as it was coming around the start of the first bend, did get shouldered and knocked to one side, and it seemed to keep its balance with that all right, but as it cleared the bend, and this is usually the bit where there's most pressure on these dogs' joints, and what we'll often get are these sort of racing injuries where the dog is just putting so much into its race that something will snap. It's, you know, came in well behind the other dogs, and the leg looked as if it was almost sort of flapping there and wasn't able to sort of support its weight in any way at all. The dog was sort of just touching the leg to the ground, but was clearly unable to take any weight in the leg, and that means that dog was certainly both unable to sort of weight bear just mechanically with the leg, but I would assume with that sort of injury there would be a great deal of pain and discomfort, although that probably wouldn't sort of kick into that dog until maybe an hour or two after, once the adrenaline settled down and the inflammation has sort of flared up. So that dog certainly did need some sort of analgesia or pain control.
We have no idea what happened to the injured greyhound that we saw. Its owner could have taken it to a vet once the racing was over. But as we were about to discover, many dogs injured on flapping tracks never reach a vet. I asked one greyhound owner what happened to the dogs, which were no longer able to race.
You know, most of them, once they're finished, you just put them down and that's it, they get another one, you know, but...
Is that realistically what they do? Is that just the media?
No, they do that, most of them do.
Most of them put them down?
Yeah, you should look for everyone at the back, she's 6. And she retired when she was 2, she got a bad injury.
But see, when you take them to vet, I thought when you took them to vet to get the dog put down, there has to be something wrong with the dog. You can't just go and say, put a healthy dog down.
No, they do, they just put them down.
The vets will put them down. What if the vet won't put them down?
You'll get certain people that will offer to put your dog down for you, and that's just a case of they'll take the dog out to the woods, shoot the dog, bury it on site. That's probably the most common one. Probably the next most common one is on the way home, the owners will just go out to the country, side some woodland, open the car door, just shove the dog out and off they go.
I've seen examples via the SSPCA where these dogs have been sort of put to sleep by the owner, if you can call it being put to sleep, but you know, they've been sort of hit on the head. It makes you feel sick really, and the sort of people that can do that, it's hard to believe that we're all sort of living on the same planet when folk can do that to a living animal. It's hard to comprehend.
The SSPCA's investigations into Lulu have hit a brick wall. They had hoped the identification tag on her ear would lead them to her owner.
We were able to identify Lulu and we were able to trace her back to her breeder, but unfortunately that's where the sort of trail ran cold, and the breeder was unable to give us the information as to who now owns Lulu.
But until the laws are tightened, greyhounds like Lulu will continue to be abandoned. She's waiting on a new home. She can only hope it's one like this.